اعوذ بالله من الشیطان الرجیم بسم الله الرحمن الرحیم و بهی نستعین انه خیر ناصر و معین. Today is 29th April 2011. We are having session number 21st of زیارت جامعه or عهد ولایت and عقد number 16. We start with our زیارت ناحیه for a few minutes and then I continue the discussion.
الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام على آدم صفوة الله من خليقته. السلام على شيخ ولي الله وخيرته. السلام على إدريس القائم لله بحجته. السلام على نوح المجاب في دعوته. السلام على هود الممدود من الله بمعونته. السلام على صالح الذي توجه الله بكرامته. السلام على إبراهيم الذي حباه الله بخلته. السلام على إسماعيل الذي فداه الله بذبح عظيم من جنته. السلام على إسحاق الذي جعل الله النبوة في ذريته. السلام على يعقوب الذي رد الله عليه بصره برحمته. السلام على يوسف الذي نجاه الله من الجب بعظمته. السلام على موسى الذي فلق الله البحر له بقدرته. السلام على هارون الذي خصه الله بنبوته. السلام على شعيب الذي نصره الله على أمته. السلام على داود الذي تاب الله عليه من خطيئته. السلام على سليمان الذي ذلت له الجن بعزته. السلام على أيوب الذي شفاه الله من علته. السلام على يونس الذي أنجز الله له مضمون عدته. السلام على عزير الذي أحياه الله بعد ميتته. السلام على زكريا الصابر في محنته. السلام على يحيى الذي أزلفه الله بشهادته. السلام على عيسى روح الله وكلمته. السلام على محمد حبيب الله وصفوته. السلام على أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب المخصوص بأخوته. السلام على فاطمة الزهراء ابنته. السلام على أبي محمد الحسن وصي أبيه وخليفته. السلام على الحسين الذي سمعت نفسه بمهجته. السلام على من أطاع الله في سره وعلانيته. السلام على من جعل الله الشفاء في تربته. السلام على من الإجابة تحت قبته. السلام على من الأئمة من ذريته. السلام على ابن خاتم الأنبياء. السلام على ابن سيد الأوصياء. السلام على ابن فاطمة الزهراء. السلام على ابن خديجة الكبرى. السلام على ابن سدرة المنتهى. السلام على ابن جنة المأوى. السلام على ابن زمزم والصفاء. السلام على المرمل بالدماء. السلام على المهتوك الخباء. السلام على خامس أصحاب الكساء. السلام على غريبي الغرباء. السلام على شهيدي الشهداء. السلام على قتيلي الأدعياء. السلام على ساكن كربلاء. السلام على من بكته ملائكة السماء. السلام على من ذريته الأزكياء. السلام على يعشوب الدين. السلام على منازل البراهين. السلام على الأئمة السادات. السلام على الجيوب المضرجات. السلام على الشفاه الذابلات. السلام على النفوس المصطلمات. السلام على الأرواح المختلسات. السلام على الأجساد العاريات. السلام على الجسوم الشاحبات. السلام على الدماء السائلات. السلام على الأعضاء المقطعات. السلام على الرؤوس المشالات. السلام على النسوة البارزات. السلام على حجة رب العالمين. السلام عليك وعلى آبائك الطاهرين. السلام عليك وعلى أبنائك المستشهدين. السلام عليك وعلى ذريتك الناصرين. السلام عليك وعلى الملائكة المضاجعين. السلام على القتيل المظلوم. السلام على أخيه المسموم. السلام على علي الكبير. السلام على الرضيع الصغير. السلام على الأبدان السليبة. السلام على العترة القريبة. السلام على المجدلين في الفلوات. السلام على النازعين عن الأوطان. السلام على المدفونين بلا أكفان. السلام على الرؤوس المفرقة عن الأبدان. السلام على المحتسب الصابر. السلام على المظلوم بلا ناصير. السلام على ساكن التربة الزاكية. السلام على صاحب القبة السامية السلام على من طهره الجليل السلام على من افتخر به جبرائيل السلام على من ناغاه في المهد ميكائيل السلام على من نكثت ذمته السلام على من هتكت حرمته السلام على من أريق بالظلم دمه السلام على المغسل بدم الجراح السلام على المجرع بكاسات الرماح السلام على المضام المستباح السلام على المنحور في الورى السلام على من دفنه أهل القرى السلام على
I'm still holding my breath if the RSR will happen or not. And I'm waiting for Ali Agha to see with the layout of the website, and inshallah that should come soon. Nevertheless, if you remember today I want to speak very short. I tried to be short, and I want to do a little bit of mubahasa from the previous weeks, not last week but the weeks before, those 20 in those 20 sessions. Because I have found it, I have to give you a little bit of heat, if you like, or embarrassment. I call it better embarrassment. I can see not all of you would like to write to me, so in spite of my several times of repetition, that without your write-up, I really don't know where I stand, and I'm sort of walking on the air. So I thought, okay, if these guys are not listening to me, I'll bring another solution now. What I do is I make a part of the session to mubahasa, and we start do some mubahasa online, and until I get a surety that things are moving. So anyway, if you remember last week, I started to talk about the universal intellect. If you can mute it, it will be better. Okay, it's fine now. Anyway, when we want to start the mubahasa, I will tell you to bring back your mic if you have already muted that. So last week we spoke about universal intellect, and that a very important and particular issue about the universal intellect is that it contains all the actualities of the whole creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in itself. And I want to bring your mind to this fact that all the actualities of the creation being in there, that means it is full of kamalat and perfections. Because you remember we have spoken in the past during this topic of aql, we spoke that one of the issues is that in the material world there is a mixture of adam or non-existence and wujud, which is existence, in the material world, and the combination and mixture of wujud and adam has made the material world in terms of wujud, the intensity of wujud very low. So the intensity of wujud in material world is low because of this mixture of adam and wujud. So this particularity about material world has given a very important notion to it, and that important notion is that So this issue of mixture of Adam and Wujud, if you notice and look at this material world, you will see when any kamal is coming from Wujud. We have spoken that before. Any kamal and perfection is coming from the Wujud, and the more kamal is in the material world that you notice, that means the more Wujud is there. So the more intensity of Wujud, that means that the more actualization of potentiality is coming to this world. So if you look at even a human being, when you look at a child at the age he is, like 2, 3, 4 years, while he starts to grow, he grows and he learns, he's adding on to his actuality, and this actuality is coming up, and further advancement of actuality, of potentiality into actuality, is making more kamal for that. And you imagine that boy is grown up and he has become a very knowledgeable person. He has become the like of Imam Khomeini rahmatullah or Allama Tabatabai. So you can see how Wujud has intensified in this very alam, very universe of the mixture of Adam and Wujud. And if you look at that intensity of that Wujud is due to to actualization of the potential of that Wujud. So now imagine, take this notion that any intensity of Wujud in all the human beings, and then look back into all the plants and all the actualities that they do have, and look to all the animals, all the actualities that they all do have, and now we can imagine in the whole. Of course, this probably needs at least a good half an hour thinking and pondering to start to identify here and there the actualities that are happening in this material world, so that you can get a global grasp of how actualization and perfection is happening on this material world. And then if you go upward and go to higher awalim, there are, when you go masalan, for example, to universe of imagination, imaginal universe and alam barzakh, there is no potentiality there, and it's all actuality, so they're all perfections. And if you go over higher than that, and if you go to awalim aql, intellectual universe, and all those angels, they're also full of actuality. All this which is beyond our imagination. We do not know. We just say one word, we say angels. But what types of angels, how many angels, these are things that we do not even know about it. I tell you that much, that in terms of number of creatures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in different universes, intellectual universe has the biggest, number-wise, has the biggest creatures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which we only probably know a few of them, like we can say Jibril, Israel, Gabriel, and all those few very known angels. But universe of Aql is full of billions of angels of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we are unaware of. These also are in addition to all those actualities in realm of imaginal realm and material realm, they are all containing in a level of simplicity, which I wanted to translate basatat or basit to simplicity. So they are all in the level of universality and simplicity in the universe in the universal intellect. So universal intellect is the reservoir of all the perfections and khair and kamalat and actualities that does exist on the world. So have that in mind. Try to at least visualize the meaning of it. Of course, we cannot visualize the thing itself because it's beyond our understanding, but visualize meaning-wise what I'm talking about. And then, now, that very, remember that universal intellect and all those kamalat are, in that level, are the highest level of kamal that is imaginable. In the level of universal intellect is unimaginable in terms of intensity of kamalat. All those kamalat are just imagine what do you know about the Big Bang. Big Bang, I mean, theoretically, even if we don't know technically what it means, but we know Big Bang, presumably, if I'm not a physician, but as what I have learned about it, is the whole universe, material universe, is condensed in such a small dot and a small point. The whole universe is condensed into that small dot. So with such a big density, that little dot exists, which contains all world. So let's say, I mean, probably every example have got its own deficiencies. So universal intellect is like the place of Big Bang. Everything is in a universal state. If the Big Bang happens, that means if you intellectually, you imagine that you give an explosion to universal intellect, the whole creation and kamalat of the creation and things come out of that. Okay? So universal intellect is the mere kamal. The kamal and only kamal, and the potentiality has no place in it. There is no potentiality in that level. So I hope I'm making my point conveyed across the board, and then and you're understanding what I'm trying to visualize intellectually for you. And so that kamal, now I read you a sentence about, and then I take it on from here. This sentence which says منازل الكمال درجات الوصال. Please remember this word. منازل الكمال درجات الوصال. منازل الكمال means stations of perfection. This is an Arabic phrase. Stages of perfection is the degrees of wisal. Wisal means liqa. You remember liqa, reaching, meeting, joining. So stations of perfections are the degrees of liqa, degrees of reaching, degrees of joining. This particularly very interesting sentence is one of those sentences that I told you that when I was giving you examples of how even people like us, when I say us, means better than us, of course, but normal, ordinary people, we are not talking about Allama Tabatabai, we are not talking about Ma'asum, we are not talking about the prophets, we are not talking about the likes of Allama Tabatabai and Allama Qazi or those people. So a very close friend of mine in Auckland had connection with Aql Fa'al and was given these 40 sentences which are words, phrases of wisdom, and they're really beautiful. So that's one of them. Manazil al-Kamal Darajatul Wisal. And I can see that, I check it, as you see when I explain it, is very much to do with what the topic that I am teaching. So I hope it was, it has, I mean, I'm happy that it has come very much on time for our discussion. So I continue. Manazil al-Kamal. I want to bring these two things together. What I originally told you about, the
universal intellect, which I just explained again about 10-15 minutes, that how it contains all the actualities and kamalat and khair without any potentiality. And then we have also at the other side, you have got manazilul kamal darajatul wisal. Manazilul Kamal, being the stages and levels of perfection, are levels and degrees of wusul and visal and reaching and liqa. Okay, what does that mean? How shall we explain this? We have spoken when we spoke about at the very early, like 10 sessions ago, spoke that Ma'asum alayhi salam, Ma'asumin, and 14 Ma'asumin, which they are Haqiqat Wahidid, they are manifesting the universal intellect. We also bring this from Hadith Nafs of Imam Ali alayhi salam, where he explains about the four souls, and the fourth soul being the Nafsul Kulliyatul Ilahiyya, or Kulliyatul Malakutiyatul Ilahiyya, the universal divine universal divine soul, which is it does not match really when I have read, if you remember, but when I have read the explanation of that soul by Imam Ali alayhi salam, it does not match with ordinary people. It looks only, it is matching with the soul of a Ma'asum. So soul of a Ma'asum is mazhar and manifestation of universal intellect. That means because universal is, remember, I have to come to, in one of these sessions, I have to also come and discuss with you and teach you what is universal. Kulli. Okay, you understand the meaning of universal, but there is a little more to just this meaning-wise, this meaning of it, that we know it is universal. That means it has got an state of encompassing this. But nevertheless, inshallah, I'll talk more technical about it in the future sessions. But for our today's discussion, universal, learn this much: universal does not exist in outside the world. Universal, the place of universal is place of batin, is in the aql. Universal is only resides in aql and intellect. Universal does not come outside of intellect. That means you cannot show, masalan, when we talk about universal human, universal insan, you cannot show someone outside and say, this is universal insan. There is not such thing called an individual to be called universal insan. So universal resides in intellect, but when it comes to an external world in alam zahir, you only have individuals, and each individual is a manifestation of that universal. Because I do not have you, I'm not sitting in front of you, nor I have your in the webcam I don't have you, so I need to a sort of reaction to whether you are understanding. Do you understand when I say the universal resides in intellectual level, and is a batin, is very internal thing, and when it comes to outside and external and zahir, only individuals of that universal can live and can be there. Does it make sense?
Can we relate this to how Haqiqat Muhammadi is, and he is Nurul Wahida, and how the Imams are manifestation of himself?
No. No, this is a different thing. It's a different thing. No, we are not. I'm talking only about I'm only talking about particularity and characteristic of universal. So when we are talking kulliya, this is what we are talking is universal kulliya aqli, intellectual universal. Intellectual universal resides in intellect. Intellectual universal resides, or its place is only in the aql and intellect. In outside world, when it's alam zahir, you do not find universal. You do not find, masalan, let's say universal animal. Okay, you do not find outside. No one can show you and tell you this animal is universal animal. You only see different animals, individual animals, which each of them are related. Each of them are related to universal animal. Similarly, when we are talking about we are talking about intellectual universal, we are saying that intellectual universal does not exist outside. مثلا when you say this topic that we are talking about, which is universal aql, right? Aql kulli. This universal aql does not exist outside. But what exists outside are individuals only. Individual kamalat are outside. So you do not find them as a whole. But there are people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who are manifesting this. All these kamalat are in them. They are the place of zuhur of these kamalat. So وَكُلُّ شَيْءٍ أَحْصَيْنَاهُ فِي إِمَامٍ مُبِينٍ. That is one of the verses that which is saying that all those kamalat are in that Imam Mubin, which one of the tafasir of it is being ma'asum. So ma'asum having all those perfections and kamalat in him. So let's get out of this technical issue. I don't want to get into the to sort of trap. It's like a trap for my today's talk. So just know that in outside world, ma'asum represents and manifests that universal intellect. So all kamalat, all perfections of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in all creations, perfections being in material level, perfections being in imaginal level, perfections being in universal level, all the angels, they are all within Ma'asum alayhi salam. Because Ma'asum is a manifestation and representing, if you like, of universal aql or aql kulli. So Ma'asum is the Ainul Kamal. Ainul Kamal, I want you to understand Ainul Kamal. Do you remember when we were discussing the issue of Ainul Wujud in back couple of years ago when we had a series of 14 sessions on reality of Laylatul Qadr. I spoke one session, I spoke about Ainul Wujud, and I gave you examples of Ainul Wujud means a wujud which is only wujud and there is nothing in it. There is nothing inside that wujud. And that's only that. And then I gave example. I said, you look at salt. Salt is ainul. Salt itself is only salinity. There is nothing else in the salt. But when you use that salt in different foods, so those foods become salty, but they are not ainul, if you like. I'm just making up the words, so but you would understand. They are not ainul salt. The food, the salt that you have used in a food and cooked the food with, it is not, that food is not ainul salt. Ainul salt or ainul milh or ainul namak, whatever you want to call it, means something which is only salinity, which that is the salt itself. So, do you understand what I'm saying? So, that was the issue of, I used that example for Ainul Wujud. Ainul Wujud being Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that means all the wujud in everything else that you see, that is like the relationship of salt, the saltiness of a food in a food to the salt itself. So the wujud that you see in me, because I have all other impurities of wujud in me, that wujud is relating back to its origin, which is the ainul wujud. But I have got some of it, and my other components with some of the wujud has made me as a whole what I am. The same thing for you, the same thing for rest of us. But we all that wujud relates back and has come from that ainul wujud. That ainul wujud means mere wujud. Or they call it wujud surf, wujud baht. There are different words for it. And example of which is like, masalan, you use sugar. Sugar is ainul sweet. Ainul sugar, let's say. Mere sugar. Just sugar, nothing else. But you use that sugar, you put it in your morning tea and you stir it, and then you have got some sweet tea. But that sweet tea is not anal sugar, it's not anal halwa, or it's not anal sweet. Has got some sweet in it, and the rest of it is the impurity of sweetness. Impurities of everything means anything other than that thing. Like when they say impurity of gold, when you have got a gold slab, and if there is any impurity in it, that means any non-gold matter is impurity of gold. Any non-salt is impurity of salt, and any non-sweetness is the impurity of sweet. So in that morning tea that you have sweetened it is all full of impurities of sweet. But the sugar itself being the source and being the mere sugar. So now, I bring you back from these examples to the Ainul Kamal. I said, Aql Kol, universal intellect, is Ainul Kamal, means there is no impurity of Kamal in it. Everything in it is only Kamal. And that is Ma'asum alayhi salam being representing and manifesting of that Ainul Kamal. So, Ma'asum is Ainul Kamal, correct? Now, when we say Manazilul Kamal, means levels of Kamal. Manazilul Kamal, stages of Kamal. Very much similar to that, the example of sugar and sweetness that you make in some whatever drink. Let's say when you put 1 spoon of sugar in a glass of water or glass of tea or whatever, and that is that much. Let's say I start to give example percentages to it so that I can lead my discussion. Let's say you put some sugar into a drink, and then you have got 5%, masalan, for example, you have got 5% sweetness. Okay? So 95% are impurities of sweetness. That means they are non-sweet, whatever. There might be very good things as well, but they are not sweetness. They are not sugar. So, Manazilul Kamal versus Kamal. Kamal being 100% of perfection, and Manazilul Kamal being percentage of perfection. Masalan, when a child is growing and coming up with actuality after actuality and actuality after actuality, and grows, comes and become a talabe, masalan. I'm visualizing all the Kamal in this studies that the talabe does. And then, but it's not necessary. I mean, you guys can be, I mean, we all have a level of perfection in us, a level of Kamal, that by our learning, by our a'mal, by our deeds. So, let's say reaches to, does 5 years of studies in Jose and does also other Kamalat. He is not like 10%, for example. He is like 10% of Kamal. It's like that 10%, that drink with 10% sugar in it. So as much Kamal that this person has, or let's go back to the original example of sweetness of the sugar. When the sweetness of the sugar is in a drink for like about 10%, you have put the sugar and stirred it and you have made a sweetened drink, 10%. So that means that cup of tea, before the sugar was combined in it, was 0% sugar, 100% non-sugar. With adding up of that sugar, it becomes 10% sugar, 90% impurities of the sugar in that drink, in that tea. And so if you look at it, if you take the whole sugar being vesal, when someone reaches to the whole sugar, becomes fully sugar, it becomes only sugar and nothing, no other impurity, that he has reached to the full liqa of sugar. But when it has got only 10% sugar in it, that means that drink has got a level of sweetness. It's like only 10%. So 10% of sweetness in that drink is the same thing. Manazilul Kamal, Darajatul Wisal. That level, manzil, that stages of sweetness that sugar has, that drink has, in terms of how much its content of sugar, that much he has reached to sugar. You can imagine, this is very simple and understanding, that as much sweetness you have made into that cup of tea, that much that tea has reached to the sugar, to the mere sugar. Only 10% he has reached to the mere sugar. If you add more sugar to it and make it 20% sugar, that another manzil of sweetness you have made. This manzil is more than the previous manzil. Here is 20% sugar. So that tea has now become 20% sugar. That means vessel of sugar, which is reaching to the sugar, that means becoming sugar, has become 20% now. And 80% of it is impurity. So take this example to Kamal of that person that I just spoke of, that he has reached to 5 years of studies in Hawza and other Kamalat, and that he is exercising. Now he has this person's Kamal and actuality and perfection versus that mere perfection that and Kamal that we said it is manifested by Imam alayhi salam, that he has reached that much, he has become that much of that perfection. So he has got that much vessel. So the manazilul kamal, that means this is a stage of kamal for that person, is equal, he has reached that much to that kamal mahz, which is Ma'sum alayhi salam. So the more this person goes up on the levels of kamal and perfection, so manazilul kamal, the more he goes, like he goes now to, let's say, have those examples just in the back of your mind, but I don't mention it now. So now this person has acquired 30% kamal. So 30% kamal, that means, again, in one of those manazilul kamal we started with 5%, then 10%, then 20%, then 30%. So as much kamal for this person, which is 30% now, that he has the rest of it, the impurities of his kamal is his stages of, let's say, potentialities which are not there. That much, that 30% kamal he has got, that he has become 30%. He has become 30% of kamal. He has reached 30% to that kamal mass, that mere kamal and perfection. He has reached to, he has become 30% the mere perfection, that he has become 30% of Imam alayhi salam. So, manazilul kamal, darajatul visal. Visal means becoming two things one, reaching to each other. That's visal. Visal is not when you stay here and look at back and someone else is waiting there 10 meters away from you. That is not visal. Visal, based on what we learned about ma'lum bil-zad and ma'lum bil-araz, it is when two things become one. That was about idrak we spoke. So visal is the same thing. So two things must become one. That means if someone attains 10% kamal, he becomes 10% for as much as 10%, he unifies and he makes union with that mere kamal. So that means he becomes 10% of that kamal. He becomes 10%. He becomes, say, try to understand my word. He becomes 10% of ma'asum. 10% of that ma'asum, that person becomes. So, but the question would be, is it possible someone becomes 100% of ma'asum? No, this doesn't happen. Not that anyone has stopped it. Not Allah has said, no, you are not allowed to become ma'asum. But practically, because of the first thing I would say, probably one of the first things is, but you do not have even the knowledge of it. So you are only on the rise, so we cannot actualize, we cannot become that 100% kamal. But these are only my examples. Let's say, masalan, very good people, high fly, spiritual people like that I know, like Allama Qazi, not that there are not other people, but they are not, all of them are not known. But those like Aghay Qazi and Allama Tabatabai and Imam Khomeini Rizwanullah alayhi, these people, masalan, they are 30% of Kamal Kul. So that means they have become 30%, or 40%, or 50%, or 70%. They have reached to that Kamal. They have become unified. They have made union with that Kamal. They have made union with Ma'asum alayhi salam. So that is how we say كل شيء أحسنه في إمام مبين. That is how we say Imam is wujudan, existentially. Imam, we are in Imam. We are with Imam. So the more kamalat we make, the closer we become to Imam. The more kamal we make, the more on this manazilul kamal we rise, the more Quran we understand, the more ma'arif we understand, the more we bring this ma'arif to practical life, to our practical life. So that means we are becoming more of Imam Zaman. Means, and not that we become Imam Zaman. That means we are making union with that level of Kamal with Imam Zaman alayhi salam. I want to give you another simple example. Let's say you know, masalan, a teacher comes to the class, and in the students of the class, they know no maths. They don't understand any mathematics, nothing. And he starts to teach them. After 1 year, they all, for example, they all learn all those for multiplication, for addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. They learn it well. So they have become that much mathematician. They have become 10%, made union 10% with their teacher in terms of mathematics. So they have become just like their teacher. They're no more different. They're no different. They are exactly the same person, but 10% of that person in mathematics. That is how the sobar ma'qule ilmi here, those ilmi, or let's say ilmi forms have unified between the students and the teachers, but at the level of 10%. So then similarly, when we are talking about Kamal, and we are talking about Manazilul Kamal, Darajatul Wisal, that means when you rise 10% Kamal, 10% understanding and learning and Kamal and practical as well, you have become 10% of Imam. So you are giving Zuhur. We are giving Zuhur of Imam in ourselves. Realize that. If this is understood, it will make the life different. Of course, you have every right to question why you have not become different, Mr. Bassam, because I have not understood it as well. I'm only saying it. Understanding it is a different thing. That the Kamal you make, you are giving as much Kamal we are making, we are giving as much Zuhur of Imam in ourselves. So when we are calling, now you go and work it out for yourself. When you are calling for Faraj, what does that mean? When we are calling for Faraj, what does that mean when we are calling for Faraj? So that means in ourselves, within ourselves, we give zuhur to kamalat and perfection. The more zuhur of kamal and perfection happens in you, the more you have made Imam Zahir in yourself. That is, let's say, fafham, befaham, understand. When we give kamal, the more kamal we create, the more we have given zuhur of Imam in ourselves. So the closer we are. So manazilul kamal darajatul wisal. Wisal is not seeing Imam. Wisal is becoming Imam. Becoming Imam not in full. We are not ever able to become Imam in full. That means you become Imam in a level, in a percentage. So manazilul kamal darajatul wisal means rise your kamal and perfection and reach and become Imam. So if at the end of a period you have become 20% Imam, then Imam has become Zahir for us. That's it. Finished. This is how you see Imam. This is how you give Zuhur to Imam. So, salawat bar Muhammad al Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So I brought you from the universal intellect, explained that universal intellect is Imam Ma'sum is alayhi salam, Imam Zaman, Ruhi lahul Fada, at this very point of time, is the manifestation of that universal intellect. And universal intellect, we explained it, is the place of all the good and goods and perfections in the whole creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we said perfection, part of them are angels, right? They're all actuality. So all the actualities and kamalat and perfections are in that. And Imam have all of them. Imam has all of them. Imam having all of them means even angels are part of wujud of Imam. Part not in, parts of a car, not that way. So they are quwa, they are faculties of Imam. Angels are faculties of Imam. The same as we say our faculties of our eyes and ears and taste, and these are our faculties. So the whole creation, the whole angels are faculties for Imam. They work for Imam, whatever they do. Like when, masalan, that angel which is giving rise to a seed, of orange seed to come out from potentiality to actuality, that is like a faculty of Imam. It is it's Imam who is giving. Or see, same as you cannot separate your eyes. You cannot say my eyes is seeing. Your eyes, when you are seeing by your eyes, you are seeing. Your eyes is seeing for you. Similarly, that angel is giving rise to that stem from the seed under the earth, is doing that for Imam. He's not independent. He cannot do it himself. So, all the angels of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all the creatures of Allah are like faculties, are like the faculties for Imam. They are working for Imam. They have no independence for themselves. So similarly, everything, even we are like that. So, we explained that as being Imam being manifesting a universal intellect or intellectual universe, and all the kamalat is being there. And then we started to explain how manazilul kamal darajatul wisal is explainable. Means manazilul kamal equal to darajatul wisal. As much kamal we attain, same much we have reached to Imam. We have become unified with Imam. So the more we make kamal in us, we have to reach to a threshold. Those people who see Ma'asum alayhi salam, it is not that they only see him in external world. They must have reached inside them, wujudan, existentially, they must have reached to a threshold so that the impurities become neutral. When I say impurities of their wujud becomes neutral, they must have reached to a threshold that then they can see Imam in outside world. So it's not necessarily to see him in outside world. You can see him in your dream. You can even in mukashafe, you can talk to him. He can talk back to you, and he can tell you things. So we have to reach to a threshold so that we can make Imam Zahir in ourselves. So we can make that visal to that level. And what is that threshold where I say that doesn't mean that we can become 100% Imam. Of course, it's impossible. So that means you give zuhur to you give to zuhur to kamalat in yourself, and all your quwa. When I said neutral, maybe it wasn't technically very right word. But what I meant to say we have the threshold is to have nullified our instincts. That means all instincts are not working independently anymore under themselves. They are working under our intellect, under our aql, under those kamalat that we have created. So not that we can get rid of our desires, but our instincts and desires have become under control. That is the threshold. This is the threshold to give zuhur to Imam in yourself, so that you have reached to Visal. That threshold, not having Imam in you, that means you have to have started. This is what we are trying to do in this months of RSR period that is coming. We are trying to nullify, or we are trying to burn our burning desires. I would probably like this word better. It's more explainable. We have to be able to burn our burning desires. So, when you burn your burning desires, that means mabadi mail, the origins of our inclinations are changed. although we have not reached 200% Kamal, but still, at least when we open up our eyes in the morning, we know that we must have a perfective, purposeful life. Perfective, purposeful life is when you open your eyes, all your thoughts, all your heart is working towards your Kamal, even if it's in your business. But opposite to that, or the other way is, this way no one will reach to in such a Kamal that to be able to see Imam. Yes, they attain some little here and there Kamalat. That is when you are, this estate, that people who mabadi male, whose origin of their inclinations are material world, and is only this worldly life. Of course, then they do salat as well. They do their fast as well. This will never give any zuhur to Imam in you. We know that if you look around, this is the way most of the people are. Most of the people are, they have got a materialized, purposeful life in which they have to do their salat and they have to do their fast and they have to go their hajj too. And there are plenty of them around. These are the people that Imam then opens his eyes, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam opens his two fingers and shows the crowd around the hajj, and they are seen as like animals, most of them. So that means they do hajj, they are Muslim, they do believe. When Imam shows them an animal, it doesn't mean they don't have faith. They have faith. They are faithful people. But the only thing is, their in origins of inclinations is what I term it materialistic, purposeful life. That means their purpose of life is to grow their material life, to widen their material joys. But they also do salat and they do hajj. It's amazing. They do everything. Even better than, a lot of them better than the other people. They donate much more money. They do hajj. They do pay khums. They do this, they do that. But it's different. You imagine it yourself, you will find out the difference. These type of people cannot create, they cannot give zuhur to Ma'soom. Only we have, so we are hoping inshallah we have started it now with their reaching to these 3 months, beautiful months of Allah, being Rajab and months of Sha'ban and months of Ramadan. Inshallah, within these 3 months, we are trying to have reached before Rajab starts, to have converted and transformed our heart, to have our origins of inclinations, perfective, purposeful life. Converted to a perfective, purposeful life. And so that in the morning when we get up, we are only after Kamal, even if we are doing our business, even if we go to work, and even if we are eating, even if we are sleeping, whatever we do. So anyway, it seems this talk can continue long. If I was supposed to talk short. I was going to tell you, sorry, I don't tell you this time, but I tell you next time. I was going to give you but anyway, I give it. I was going to give you a very good point to be observed for pre-Rajab and also Rajab Ramazan, Sha'ban Ramazan, for elevating our souls, and inshallah be making our Layaliul Qadr more possible for us this year. That was sukut, silence. There is nothing better than silence. So let's practice some silence. But then I realized I have spoken one hour myself already. How are you giving silence? Anyway, so our today topic, I will term it when I'm saving and putting it online. I will call it Manazilul Kamal Darajatul Wisal, which is of course a subtopic of Aql. Still we are on the topic of Aql. So we finished today this Manazil Kamal Darajatul Wisal, and hope you made an understanding. It was a very beautiful word of wisdom which was revealed to one of our very good mu'minin in Auckland, and it's 40 of them. Inshallah, I would look at which one of them also come. Maybe, I don't know, maybe by the time I want to finish Sharh of Ziyarat Jamia, all these 40s are used. If that be the case, I would say thank you very much to my friend. And Bar Muhammad al Muhammad salawat till next Wednesday. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.